All right.
Awesome.
Exactly. There you go. Awesome. Welcome to the good stuff. This is the big episode 50, and we have a guest, as you can see on the screen, is young Justin Moon,
Wow.
famous
Our guests
from
something to
Twitter, I guess, back in
celebrate?
the day.
Are they like an achievement? It sounds like it's a rare. We have a guest.
It's sporadic, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sporadic.
Well, it's
The
glad to be here. It's always fun to talk with you, Pete, and I'm sure we'll
yeah.
have a great time.
Well, I mean, the concept of this podcast was always keep it like easy to produce. And if
Hmm.
you have to book guests constantly, that's not easy to produce.
Yeah,
Although
it's
this
not
was
easy.
quite an easy booking. It's just like,
Yeah,
do you want to come on? Yes. Okay,
yeah,
let's do it on
yeah,
Wednesday.
yeah.
That
I show
works.
up in a timely manner. It's great.
Oh, right. Is that what happened?
Yeah, yeah, right on time.
All right. Well, let's get stuck in. I was saying, Andy, I thought a nice place to start was, do you remember, like, back maybe like early 23, there was this moment where you could see JB55 really getting into Nostr. I remember talking to you about it, and it was like, we said, like, oh, it's really nice for him because, like, he's found his thing. Like, he's found his space, and you could see him just like hammering out code and getting really excited about everything. And I feel like that's what I've seen with you in the last few months, where I was like, oh, he's found his thing. This is
Yeah.
going to be interesting. And there's like a week in, I think it's Sovereign Engineering drink, where you'd I think you started like the week by going like, oh yeah, I'm replacing Zoom with Nost. I'm replacing Zoom, and then halfway through the week you were like, and I'm rebuilding a mobile operating system, and it's like what? And then you're like, oh, I'm also at the end of the week you were
The
replacing a
browser.
browser, and I was like, fuck me, like he's
Yeah, I've had AI psychosis going on for 9 months now, so yeah, I feel like I'm an old hat at this. But yeah,
so
no.
tell us about it because I was like, fuck, that's manic, like, but a lot of stuff is about to happen. So where are you at?
Yeah, so for me it's very clear that I mean obviously like building software is like very valuable, high leverage thing to do, which is why I got into it in the first place. It's kind of, why everyone got into it. And now it's like the leverage is like increasing a lot by like a factor of like 10 or more in many cases. If you're smart, but the game is
Hmm.
different, right? Like it's like the physics of it is different from like the keyboard, Scrum,
Yeah.
uh, like the traditional ways that we figured out how to do it is like very, very different, right? So
Hmm.
like, you know, uh, like your role where you would like be like a product manager, right? Like now you're not that really anymore, like you
No.
you can mix it up more and like I got really good at managing people, and now like I don't have to do that, or like I don't- like I
Hmm.
can accomplish quite a lot without having to have many people involved. And like there's new bottlenecks, like uh like just generating the code isn't a bottleneck anymore. And you can do like in certain domains you can do immensely complicated things. So that's what I've been kind of trying to do, is like push the limit on, like try to find where it falls apart,
Hmm.
like push it really hard and figure out where it falls apart. So I've done these like difficult projects, like making a new way of making mobile apps, which I'm going to actually ship that this week. So we prototyped it. It's like
Oh,
how
nice.
it's working for me is I do projects and they fail, and
Yeah.
then 6 months later they start to work. And so this is for the first time they're like really starting to work. So like,
Yeah.
there's like 3 or 4 serious apps being built with this Rust multi-platform thing. This is like my new kind of way of making mobile apps. It's kind of like if I take what I learned, leading the Fedi development team, and be like, okay, if I had to build another app like that again, this is how I'd want it to work. Or,
Hmm.
if the Freedom Tech ecosystem is going to build like an app for iOS and Android, this is kind of how I'd want them to do it. And so now, yeah, so it's like it took me like that first sovereign engineering code. It took me like 4 weeks. Like every week, I demoed like a little piece of it,
Hmm.
and then about 2 months ago, I threw a couple coding agents at it. It made something better in like in a day, and it had all this prior art, right? Like I'd already
Yeah.
explored the space, and so it wasn't. If I had just said like, "Hey, this is my vision. This is how to do it," I'm not sure if it would have been able to figure it out. But when I gave it like these, I think I had like 8 different demos that were
Hmm.
like related ideas, And so when I just was like, search my GitHub. I made a bunch of prototypes like this in this time frame, and it found like 8 of them and downloaded them all and stuff like that. And so it was able, and then we were able to get up and running and build Pica, which is like this end-to-end encrypted Nostr based messaging app. And we haven't really shipped it yet because Marmot is still like an evolving thing. So I'm kind of starting to get like slightly blocked on that. So yeah, like so that was the first one, and then the second one is I tried to build a browser, and then I tried to build an Android operating. I tried to like replace Android basically. That was my craziest one.
And just
so
you, like
yeah,
one,
just
one
me,
man.
just
yeah,
me.
just
Yeah,
you,
like
yeah.
how could we make something like Android that could run on some of the Android devices, but that doesn't have, like Android's built on top of Linux, right? Like there's like 3 components that I understand. There's Linux, and then there's these device drivers that come from manufacturers, that are usually written in C++, and then there's like Android project, which is all Java basically, and some C++, but like Android is like massive. It's like 100 million lines of code. I tried to build it once, and it took like 6 hours, like just compile the code. And so yeah, I started that one like 4 or 5 months ago, and I got to the point where I could, in some circumstances, like disable parts of Android and paint the screen a color, and using non-Google code. Like all the screen was I controlled, right?
Yeah.
And so that was extremely difficult. It took like, I had to really focus and really like drive it, right? Like I wasn't asking the models where to go, like how to do it. I would have to research and basically navigate, and it would kind of be the tires, but I was driving. And so yeah, in the last week I resurrected that one again, and this is going to be interesting. I've almost got it running on hardware now. So
Oh fuck, that's
like this is my thing. I'm going to go software engineering in a week, and this is what I'm going to try to get everyone to work on. It's networks and hardware. It was networks originally, and someone else snuck in hardware, and thank God for them. Coverdor snuck in hardware, so I'm gonna hijack the whole cohort now with my stupid ass phone. But yeah, it's I don't know. I'll show you later, but it's like so I don't know. So that's my feeling. Is like some of these massive projects are possible, especially if you're painting in the lines of stuff that like the models know about. Like they know a lot about Linux, they know a lot about Android, they know a lot about device hardware actually, because there's so much training data for that. There's so much about that on the internet. And so for some of these things, it's like, things that we used to take for granted is like elements of the environment, like static elements of the environment, right? It's like, that's a mountain, you can't replace the mountain.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you actually can. Now, for certain things, you can. So that's really exciting. That Bitcoin developers have been sort of blocked and sort of abused by Android and iOS for years, right? And it's really painful to work for them. And it was very demoralizing to have to go through the process for Pica for like, I'm still waiting for them to approve a developer account for me that I set up like 2 weeks ago. So it's so frustrating. The developer builds are taking like 5 days to get through. It's like, those used to be instant, and it's just very frustrating. So yeah, it's like, why don't we have our own little platform? It'll take a long time for it to be as secure, but it could also be more fun and featureful, pretty like a lot of stuff we want to do for the Android or for the Nostr Bitcoin, stuff. We could have a platform that allows us to do it more, to like that's more hackable. So that's kind of what I'm going for.
That sounds good. I mean, so why do you think it's possible all of a sudden to do these things that you couldn't before?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm kind of getting to the point where I could, like, used to be, it's like you'd write like 100 lines of code as a developer a day roughly, and now I can write like 10,000 about, and I don't have the same level of confidence.
So they're different numbers though, right? Like 110,000.
It's 100 times more, right? And like I don't have the same confidence in it that I used to have. So it's like, vibe coding an end-to-end encrypted messaging app is not a comfortable experience completely. But you can get certain levels of comfort. I mean, like, so my plan is to try to like isolate the things that are dangerous into certain areas that we could audit later, and so that's where it's like, having a lot of experience with this sort of thing does really help, because I kind of, it's like I have all the scary shit in a couple little pens, and I don't have it That's what I try to do. I don't always succeed. Like, yeah, with the Pica, we were getting all kinds of features and we're winning, and then all of a sudden I looked in and we had 3 different implementations of some of the crypto stuff. I'm like, oh god,
Yeah.
So I had to spend a lot of time refactoring. So but that's the game everyone's learning is like, how do you
work with it?
Yeah, so what I was saying now is like the bottleneck isn't code production anymore. It's review, and then in many cases it's like testing. So I've been, you can look at it. I don't know what it looks like right now, but if you go to git.picachat.org, this is like my little GitHub replacement. And if you look at the one in like branch history, so there's an open branch, and if you click on like the first one in branch history, if you go down a little bit to tutorial steps, so I have this little thing where it'll make me little tutorials on code changes, which is really useful. So I don't have to like look at the whole change anymore. I just look at the little, it's like, what are the important things that changed? And like, so I try to have like the agent kind of teach me stuff, And so like that's been,
so every PR kind of comes with the diff as usual, but then you have like a summary and a little like, teach me what you just did.
Yeah, tutorial. And like, give me a bite-sized chunk that I can understand. And like, I don't want to have to go through the big diff, hundreds of lines of code and understand everything. Just give me like one idea at a time, spoon feed me one idea at a time. And, this helps me understand like where we're at and like whether it's on the right track. And so it's still a bit of a mess.
So even that site, you've just replaced GitHub as well for yourself, have you?
Yeah, so I don't use GitHub. For Pica, I don't use GitHub anymore. We moved off GitHub. Yeah. GitHub's a mirror, meaning it's a backup, right? So anytime something's merged into this little thing, it gets mirrored over to GitHub. But like GitHub could be blown away, and I don't really care. And so this is again the dynamics change, right? On an open source project, you used to want contributors, right? You'd appeal to contributors, and now I kind of don't. Right, like I have a few friends that want contributing, but like drive-by pull requests, I basically don't merge anymore. I treat them like a prompt, more or less. Like I say, okay, this person wants to do this, and then sometimes I'll merge what they did, but like oftentimes I'll just be like, okay, let me try it myself because I know what they did. Like they're gonna,
but they don't have the knowledge of like how you architected the thing.
Yeah, and also like I don't trust if it came from their thing or over my I know my process and I kind of trust my process and I don't know what their process is, so I'm just going to do it and it takes 15 minutes and so there's like, if you're logged in as a whitelisted contributor on this site, you get like a little chat bar on the side where you can chat with the agent that generated the tutorial, which is interesting. Like what I'm trying to work on now is like the people working on this, if we can have like a standard workflow for like it's cool, it would be cool to upload your like agent sessions to this, but obviously you don't want that to be public, right? Because like maybe for me sometimes a private key leaks or like not a private key, but like a secret, right? Like a secret, or it's like showing stuff in my home directory that's not public or whatever, right? And so like one of the things I want to do is we have like 3 or 4 people that I've whitelisted on this. Ben Carman's one, Paul Miller's one, Anthony Ronning's one. They both helped a little bit. Hazard, who's actually in the night, he's been visiting. Nice. He's staying with me. He's been helping out a little bit. And so, for like whitelisted people, what would be cool is like we could like, have like a shared key or like a threshold and some kind of like threshold encryption where like we can upload our logs, but only those other people can see them, right? And so then if you want the tutorial, you can actually have it like generate the tutorial starting from the transcripts that were used to produce the code too, or you could have stuff like that. And like this is hard to do on GitHub. It's hard to. So that's another thing that's changed. It's like one of my heuristics with vibe coding and AI development stuff is just like to remove as many dependencies as you can. Because like if you can get down to like the bare metal, and the bare metal in Git is like just a Git checkout, like just a bare checkout of the repo on a server, and like then you push a branch up to that, and like you can have a trigger based on that to run your CI, and it's like very quickly you don't need GitHub anymore. Like GitHub is not actually doing very much if you boil it all the way down. Like it seems like this big monolithic thing, but it's not.
Often with most software, it feels like there's like 2 or 3 things that it does, and you can actually create those 2 or 3 things very quickly just for yourself. Like we've done this with a lot of software that we use amongst ourselves, of like chat apps and Discord stuff, and like
it's really nice when you do that too. Sometimes like it's like, oh, this just feels simple. It feels like the 90s. It's like the good things about like the early days of software where like it loads fast. Like this is a server-side rendered app written in Rust, and it's like the thing loads really fast. You know, it's much less sluggish than GitHub. Like it's in some ways it's a piece of shit still. Like I've just vibe coded it, but in some ways it like when I reload the page, like this thing comes back faster than GitHub does. You know, just because it's like 100 times less complicated. So yeah, there's a beauty in simplicity, and so yeah, that's kind of one of the other things I've been doing. And then the other thing is like I built up my own whole like CI system for this. Like we had so one of the bottlenecks was review, right? Like, and that's why I made this little tutorial feature. And then the other bottleneck was testing, right? So it got to be the point where it's like, okay, it takes me 10 minutes to make a little feature, or 20 minutes, and then my CI started taking 7 minutes. So it's like if you spend a whole day, it's fine to wait 7 minutes for your tests. Yeah. But if your feature now takes 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and now it's still 7 minutes, that's now all of a sudden like a big chunk of the total development time. And so yeah, I went on a big. I took a lot of the things that DPC basically taught me at Fedi, and I tried to make a CI system where the tests complete as quickly as the slowest test. So what I did is I made a little system that could have a big server that I rent from Hetzner. Hetzner is this amazing server. You just rent a physical server from them. And so like for like $90 a month right now, I got like a Ryzen 9 processor with like 128 gigs of RAM. So it's like it's really a very nice computer. And so what I do is I have a little system for spawning VMs. And so so I can get like 40 VMs, and then I run all my tests concurrently. So like I just put all my tests in all these little isolated environments. And so I start with like the slow. I don't quite do this yet, but I want to have like, okay, the slowest tests run first, and then as those complete, you fill it in with the faster tests, and hopefully it's all done by the time the slowest one's done. You know, so like so I got I think my CI is down to like a minute now. So from 7 minutes to 1 minute, and I think I can get it down to like 30 seconds because that's what my slowest test is. So so this is one where it's like, okay, it's like zoom out, and it's like your bottleneck is now CI. There are ways, you know, like be creative. Like how could you, in principle, if you boil it all the way down and like work directly on a physical server, how fast could you get it to run? You know, and so I wasted 2 weeks on that, and everyone who is in our little watching Pica is all of a sudden like, what the hell is Justin doing? But now, I don't know, I feel like I actually have something better than GitHub now, which is exciting. And it's funny, it is Nostr. The only thing that has Nostr is login. The Nostr login is beautiful. I love Nostr login. Yeah. And the next thing I want to do is make a thing. It's funny, it's like you think about what Nostr should have for GitHub. Like they put all this effort in like putting the actual code and all that stuff into Nostr relays and everything. It's like the one thing I think it needs is the star, GitHub star, right? Because that's the big social signifier, right? How popular is a project? How many stars does it have? Right? With OpenClaw, that's what everyone talks about, is how many stars it has. And we don't have that in Nostr, actually. We don't have like a standard how to star a repo. So what the fuck are we doing, you know?
I have one of my like maybe apocryphal sort of views is that we shouldn't store stuff on Nostr relays. It's an anti-pattern.
I totally agree. I'm like don't put data there, put it somewhere else, right? And so this is another thing I think about is like, you know, like there's a lot of Nostr is built around, like one of the things that Nostr became, which I don't like, is that it's like, oh, this is like Firebase. It's like a thing to build your backend on, so you don't have to build a backend. And it's like, that was useful when nobody could build a backend, but now it's trivial to build a backend, you know? So it's like, you don't need Nostr to be like your shared shitty backend that you can build any app on. I think that's like no longer important. And then now the tricky thing is nobody knows how to set up a server, right? And so with like, how would it change if it was trivial to set up a server and you could pay for sats and that was like readily available and you didn't have to go through KYC and like somebody in your web of trust could give you one, like on that Ryzen server, like the things I'm using for CI, if you could pay a little bit and rent one for a day or whatever, and it was really quick, like how would that change the dynamics of Nostr, right? Like, okay, so now it's no longer, now you can just check out one of these and have your Git server there instead of having to do it all in relays, right? So that's like, I think some of the formula is changing, and if we can get to a point where it's really, really easy for like an app to spawn a server for a user, like all of a sudden now there's all kinds of things that are possible.
I mean, I always used to say it was like, it's Nostr, so the T is transmitted by relays. It's not stored on relays. If you expect stuff to be on the relays, you're kind of fucked because it just won't be when you need it. There's a lot of working around to do that. So I actually built like my own backend I call it super based. which
Yeah, there we
is
go.
you find it via Nostr. You can connect to it either like directly via API, or you can go via like context VM. So you address
Cool.
the whole thing via Nostr. But then beyond that, it can be anywhere. And you can have multiple of them, and you can have
I really
like
like
one
that.
at home and one in the future, sort of thing. So, but then I know I've got one state, and then a lot of the problems with like what you get with Nostr with like, okay, well, this one's got 5 of the like 20 events, and this one's got 5 of the. How do I then merge all that? All that goes away, and you just have like a nice clean back end.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly. So
yeah.
I've been thinking very similarly. It's like, okay, like what if Nostr is just the way to communicate how to find these services, and maybe if there's an agent that can figure out how to use them or something, right? Like all of a sudden we don't have to be so we don't have to. There's less we need to agree on and standardize it, maybe.
So this is what Wingman, the third version of Wingman, looks like. So like when we were in Madeira, we had like version 1 was like that Goose version, and then in the airport it turned into version 2, which was like all of the agents and more orchestration stuff.
Amazing.
And then version 3 now is like I've got a flat like HTML website basically with some JavaScript in it, and then everything that's on there is populated via this super-based backend, which is like an encrypted record sync. So I can load up. So it's a local first app that like, exists entirely inside the browser, and then it just gets synced updates from Superbased. And then my agent has a different CLI that talks directly to Superbased in the backend. So it can just encrypt stuff for me and
Which
drop
GitHub
them in
is
there.
this? Wingman Autopilot?
It's Wingman Flight Deck and Wingman Yoke are probably the two that you need for that. And the
Flight Deck.
Yeah, so Flight Deck is the human UI. Yoke is the
Oh, there we go.
that's the CLI for the agent, and then Tower, the control tower, is the super base sync. That's the thing in the middle that holds it all together.
Okay,
So that will spin up. So it spins you up a Postgres for encrypted record sync.
Yeah.
So it does everything as like a business record type thing. So you have atomic changes from version 1 to version 2 and onwards.
Awesome.
And then and then it has like an S3 bucket in there as well. So you can do storage and you can do data. And like, you really don't need much more than that for most of these things. But
yeah, I know that's I kind of agree. It's like I think if we can add a few more of these primitives to like the Nostr stack and make it a little easier and make it so like you don't have to, just make that a little easier. I think more things become possible.
It was one of these things where I thought, I built this. It's incredibly useful to me. And I think you can just make these now apps that you can just run locally with no real server required. It's really easy to run the Superbase backend, or you can hire it from someone because everything's encrypted. And I was like, Gigi's going to hate this. He wants everything on Nostr relays, but I think he's wrong on that one. I think it's but
that's his solution. That's his solution, huh?
That's his no solution. Is put it all on relays.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't feel like I actually understand Nostr yet. So I still don't have very strong opinions on any of the actual Nostr stuff.
Beautiful discovery though. Like the discovery, the ID, like the fact that you already know, I can encrypt stuff to you just because I know your npub and it's public. Like that is just having that like bootstrap web trust stuff is just brilliant. Like that's...
I mean that's why I got into the Marmot stuff. Like I think Marmot's really interesting because it's like like if we can have like true like signal quality and then encrypted like group chats, it's a really powerful primitive, and it like doesn't quite work yet. I mean, it kind of works, but it's like it's still work in progress. Like it's still being figured out, I'd say. But if we can actually get that like to be good, I think that's going to be really, really interesting. And if we get it to be easy to integrate too, like that's just better encryption stuff, I think is going to be really powerful. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, as soon as somebody has a key, there's a lot you can do. Yeah. And you can make software that's not so extractive and not such a cunt about everything.
And maybe you don't even have to transmit it over relays. Maybe it's just notes.
Whoa.
Notes and other stuff like transmitted over HTTP, and like that's, I don't know. I need to still understand FIPS better. That's one of the things I want to do when I'm in sovereign engineering. The thing from Jonathan Corgan, and like that
does look interesting.
I've only like read I've mostly inferred what I imagine it is from what I remember Aryan talking about. So like it's basically a hallucination, but I don't know how much relays are involved in that. I'm not sure. I think it's more potentially kind of a little more rooted just in the keys.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I mean, the keys are a big part, right? But let's divert back into AI for a minute. But
Yeah.
so you're doing like AI for HRF these days, right? Like, what's the why do human rights activists care about AI? Like, isn't it just a big centralized nightmare that's going to eat us all?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of think that the two groups that like it's like a very bimodal thing. It's like the people that really care about AI are like the really, really big guys, right? Like governments and militaries and big companies and stuff. And then the little guys, right? Like small business people. Like they're the ones I think who are leveraging it the best probably. And then in the middle, it's like you have Apple Intelligence and Microsoft Copilot. It's shit that doesn't work, and it's mostly vaporware. Like it's kind of funny, right? Like Palantir probably really works, right? And like, but then at the local level, it's like if you're an activist or something, you have like a few people and just a tiny bit of money, and you're trying to like, you're trying to fight something that's much, much more powerful than you. So any sort of like a productivity increase is, really goes a long way. And so, like that's why I think the activists find it appealing and need it, and why we want to provide better tools for them to access these things. And they have kind of unique requirements because they're sometimes they're dealing with kind of sensitive information. So stuff like local AI, which is still kind of a work in progress, but it's getting there. And then stuff that's like end-to-end encrypted using like Maple or other things like that. They're starting to, Maple's been in pretty good shape for a couple, 6 months, and there's more options like that coming, and hopefully we can have it easier for developers to build tools like this, tools like Maple, to host and run tools like that without having to, go through AWS or something like that. So yeah, those are the, kind of why they need it and what they need. And then also just, like they'll use it, many of them will use it on their own, and we want to make sure that we kind of educate them and so they know what the risks are. Cause there are a lot of risks in your, like it's kind of like one of the things that's kind of terrifying to me is like, like ChatGPT can probably identify me by my typing very, very well at this point, like for all the typing I've done into Codex and Claude and all these things, it's like, man, I could probably type a sentence on any keyboard in the world, and if it's plugged into the right GPU in their data center, they'll know it's me, right? So I'll have to like do the index finger typing or something if I ever have an important message, right? So you leak all this metadata as you go, and just kind of like there's a research study a couple weeks ago that was like basically saying they can identify nyms with like a 99% accuracy just based on their writing style. So if you had like a nym account 5 years ago, it's like anybody who wants to can figure out it was you, which is kind of terrifying. So yeah, there's all kinds of metadata that is leaked, and it's really difficult to cover your tracks if you want to be private. So just educating on that is important.
That's a tough one as well. I mean, I know one of the things that me and Andy talk about a lot is that the people that are going to benefit from a lot of this tooling right now, as you said, like there's huge governments they obviously have their nefarious reasons for why they care about this stuff, and then beyond that, it's anybody that is like super high agency. And like all the people that like I met with the activist groups and things that we did in the past were like, if there's anything that you would describe those people as, it's like super high agency. It's like, all right, I'm gonna have a crack at my government. Like, what have you got? Well, there's about 7 of us, and we've got a Telegram group or something. And you're like, oh fucking hell! Like,
and we all have jobs. We have jobs and families, and exactly. Like, it's I mean, it's kind of funny. It's like, like one way I think about it, it's like we're almost going back to being like a frontier society. Like you imagine, I'm from the U.S., right? Imagine Australia at the same time frames, right? The people who really thrived in that first couple generations were not the smartest guy, not the one who could get through a PhD or, be a chemical engineer. It was the one who was just very, very, very stubborn and determined to plow that damn field, like, to get all those trees and those rocks out of there, and would just do it for 10 years, right? Like that's the person who thrived in that sort of environment. And I think to some extent we're kind of going back to that, where like, you can now buy intelligence to some extent, and obviously it's not quite the same, but now it's like, well, you know, willpower is really important. So like that's not, like that is that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Is that like there's like a
Yeah.
balance here though, right? Because I guess you guys must deal with this at HRF, but like on one hand, like AI is like enabling the state and even large corporations to a degree to actually become more repressive. And then at the same time, you do have these like enclaves that can start to emerge by using the same like subsets of the same technology. Like how do you find like balancing this as well? Because like, I mean, I include corporations only because I feel like at some point, like a lot of the subsidies for tokens that the Anthropics and the OpenAIs of the world are just going to dry up, and these tools are going to become like 10 times more expensive. And so that will just centralize that use back into the larger enterprises as well. Like, how do you guys like balance this? Like, do you guys think about how the tool can be so effective for repression at the same time it can be like enabling for agency? And
Yeah, exactly. My focus is more on the positive uses for it, just because I'm more knowledgeable there, right? Like I'm a tech guy, and then Alex and others throughout HRF focus more on the negative things, because that's what they have a lot of experience on advocacy against like authoritarian regimes, and so I think we've done a few research reports kind of looking into how. Yeah, we announced like 2 of them in November, and I think they were the first research reports in like 3 or 4 years that had been done studying this, like how China's using AI to repress their citizens. And like this is something where it's a really important topic, but like nobody in academia writes on it. And I wonder why. Yeah, I wonder. What is his name? Like Isaac Stone Fish has, I think that was his name, has an interesting book about this, about why why aren't there any movies critical of China since like 7 Years in Tibet? Like that actually show the things of that, like what the CCP did at various times. It's an interesting book. So yeah, that's kind of their focus. I don't have a lot to add there because I don't know much about it, but I cheered on for sure, because it's more of these in every country, including Australia, United States. Like there's going to be like big governments are going to there's a big new weapon, and it's going to move. It could move the balance of power in their direction. And so, there's many ways to combat against it, but another way of describing some of these activist groups is they're like civil society, right? They're like this third pillar, aside from business and government, that tries to hold both accountable. So even if you're not trying to like overthrow authoritarian regime, there's still a lot of roles for other, a healthy society is one where you have many nodes of power, and they're all keeping each other, they're all competing, and they're all keeping each other honest, and people can move between them, and you have a lot of healthy accountability and balance of power across different things. And it's always very bad when you have one industry, one banana industry, one oil industry, and one guy in charge. That's when you get the worst societies, right? So even for the activist groups that aren't pushing for like actual like regime change or something like that on the extreme end, there's many others that just try to hold powerful interests accountable and functional governments. And I think that's going to be really important, right? We're going to need more of these types of things holding ChatGPT or OpenAI, Anthropic, Palantir, U.S. government, Australian government, things that are more functional, like societies where the government is more functional. We're going to need a lot of stuff to hold them accountable as well, that aren't like explicitly like partisan politics or that's the nice thing about HRF is it's not really a partisan organization. They don't really take, they're not like a Democrat or Republican in the U.S., right? It's like this thing, they just advocate for freedom, and they're kind of a one issue thing, and they'll apply that very consistently no matter what the environment is, right? So yeah, I think anything like that is going to be really useful, because we're not going to be able to count on the governments. We're probably not going to we're not going to be able to count on businesses to and we're not sometimes the political process doesn't get us there as well. So
yeah, I know when I look at it, I always think that it's like I prefer farmers markets to supermarkets, if you know what I mean. It's like the right sort of definition of just like it's you need lots of small amounts of power all over the place and less like all one big set of power in one place. And then when you look at like a very large government and a very large corporation, Like, it feels like half the world is like really mad at very large corporations, and the other half is really mad at very large governments. And it's like that meme where it's like, corporate wants you to tell the difference. It's like, there's like what? Like, it's just the problem is the big, not the business or the government. It's just the big. We need the small. And like, so this gives me a lot of hope with a lot of this tech. 'Cause I'm like, well, all of a sudden the small can actually output more than the big. Like, it's always been a view of mine that economies of scale are a lie sold to people by large organizations. They come in and say, oh, you want to come with us with economies of scale, and it's like, no, I've existed in this place and tried to get something done. Like, there is no economy in scale here. What you have is good, like, it's better for like legislation and like working around bullshit laws or compliance and things like that keep smaller people out, but it's always better to deliver the thing at a small scale because you get what you want much closer to like what you want, like very like niche outputs. And again, like I just see this so much with AI where I'm like, well, why would I go to Silicon Valley to go buy this thing when I can just make a version here that has the free things that I care about in that software stack? But also, because I built it, it's now plugged into everything else that I need in all the other software, so I can get rid of all the software that I need, and my business just becomes one software package, effectively, that I have. And it does exactly what I want it to do. Like, that's just such a fantastic outcome.
There is like
so two thoughts.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just two thoughts as you're talking. Like, like we're gonna have economies of scale always, like some degree, but like I think they're changing right now. So like the network, so you used to say the network effects, right? Like that was like the Web 2.0 network effects, network effects. These things are getting destroyed right now. Like like I just think of how much I used to be addicted to Twitter and how unaddicted I am now. I'm like almost allergic to it, where I can after about 10 minutes of my feed, it's just like too much, and I just have to close it because it's not like, doesn't feel like it's my friends anymore. It's just gotten kind of overrun by slop and promoters and stuff. And like a lot of the places on the internet don't feel authentic anymore. And I think that's just going to be like authentic, real voices are going to get crowded out by slop. Right. And that's really good for this small thing, right? Like that's one of the things that makes me more hopeful that Nostr could happen, because like the whole idea of Nostr is there's no global, right? And so it like definitionally can't really compete with Twitter, because like Twitter is like the epitome of global, right? It's like the one global conversation, but the global conversation is kind of dying, and more it's between robots, and it's like you're a sucker if you actually engage with it too seriously, right? And it's like, okay, what are the alternatives? And it's like now, you have like kind of your digital neighborhood in on Nostr, and all of a sudden that's like much more competitive, right? So you might have I think we're gonna have big economies of scale on like computation, right? It's like if you want to compete with OpenAI's GPU cluster, good luck, right? Like, I mean, there's a few entities that might pull it off, but you're gonna have big economies of scale for things like that, But then, like a lot of the old ones are going to kind of die off, and it's going to make a lot of room for like new ecosystems, right? It's like a big forest fire kind of. Like the Web 2.0 to me is like having a forest fire right now, and we're going to have some nice soil here soon for our little acorns, right? And then the second thought as you were talking was that, like, you said how like, you can build all yourself, and it can connect. You have different pieces that can connect. And I think that's one thing that's really, really interesting, where it's like in the past, sort of like any sort of software entrepreneurship, it's like you'd get to build like one little pillar, right? But you had to like fit into an existing ecosystem, or like hope an ecosystem forms. But now you can like kind of build whole ecosystems a little easier in a sense, right? Like, so I think, you can have like a few different things that work together, and you have this little like kind of coherent ecosystem, So it's like for my GitHub thing, it's like I have my little GitHub replacement, but I also have this like little platform for like making little VPSs where I can charge with, for 5 minutes of running over Lightning, right? And it's like, that's going to be a useful primitive for other things, right? And like, if this little hardware project works, it's like, trying to stand up a whole operating system with like a calendar app and contacts and various things a couple of years ago seemed like impossible. But it's like, I think actually if the 10 or 20 of us got interested in this, like we could make a whole ecosystem, right? You could get enough where it's like, yeah, I mean, you could kind of have a daily driver here. It's not going to be great for booking reservations at restaurants on OpenTable, maybe, but maybe we'll.
The thing is, as long as you could plug like an agent into it, it doesn't have to be. That's the thing.
So that's the thing. It's like, what if the what if the interface, if you can, I mean, if you have a little simple VPS NixOS based cloud where you can buy stuff for sats, and if an OpenClaw and stuff can run there, it's like maybe that's maybe that's like your window to the forest fire, as we see, we'll call it the forest fire, right? So if you need to interoperate with the old thing, if you need to get an Airbnb, it's like that's how you get it, right? So it's it's like then on the other side, on this side of the window, it's like we can kind of go to town and build all kinds of experiences that we can use and we want to use and we have control over, and we can vibe code and stuff. So yeah, so I think this thing that's really interesting is like we can kind of build whole ecosystems now. Like it took Nostr a couple years to build something like an ecosystem, and maybe we can do more of them, but we're kind of limited by ideas, I think, in some sense, right?
Yeah.
Like I think in some sense Nostr feels a little starved for ideas to me at times, where it feels like we're building the same client over and over and over again sometimes,
I mean, I've been building on Nostr like constantly since coming back from Madeira, and I haven't built any. I never use kind ones, basically. I don't do
me neither.
Almost anything. I've done games. I've done all sorts of different apps. I use it for login everywhere. I use it for all my encryption stuff, but I just don't use it as a social.
Have you attempted to make a NIP or edit a NIP or anything?
No, I don't.
Attaboy. That's another shitcoin right there, the NIPS repo.
I know, Jesus will be mad at me.
Stay away, I say. Yeah. Why? Who cares? Like, if someone likes it, they can read my docs, have their agent read my docs. Like, kind one, and then fighting over what's going to become a NIP. Like, who cares, right? So I don't know. I think we have a different perspective to some degree on Nostr than many of the earlier people.
Maybe. So you mentioned OpenClaw. Like, what's your take on OpenClaw? Because that was a big moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. I mean, to me, I mean, I have a little bit different take because, like, I don't know, I don't find like, I'm like an expert vibe coder. Like, I'm very good at it. So, a lot of the people who found OpenClaw, like for example, Alex. Well, I don't think Alex Gladstein didn't really use many of the AI tools other than like, he, if you think of like, there's the three versions, right? There's like the interface, like the chatgpt.com, the conversation, and then there's vibe coding, and then there's like these kind of stateful long running agents, right? Like he was on that first one and never really got to the second one because it just didn't feel like the right form factor for him. And then he skipped from the first one to the third one. And so when he saw the, the actual OpenClaw, he's like, holy Lord, I can, like he's been, he was, it's been fun watching. Like I've watched the whole thing, one day he's like building a Cashew wallet, and the next day he's got some sort of like a transcription tool. And then he's got a tool that can write, he's doing all these cool things, just really going to town. And so I think for people like him who didn't find like vibe coding to be like fit into their way of working, it's a huge unlock, right? And so I am not that, right? Like I went really hard on vibe coding. So when I see that, it's like, I don't really need memory so much. Like so I haven't actually used it very much. I want to use it more, but I see it's transformative for many of the people who didn't jump on the bandwagon for vibe coding, in many cases for good reason, right? Like if Alex was spending all his time vibe coding, I probably don't think that would have been a good use of his time, but like the OpenClaw actually is. So, he's just doing it for experimentation, right? I don't think he's it's all sandboxed and stuff like that. But it's experiencing these things is really useful, and so that's on the user side. But then on the like developer side, I find it very inspirational because like I followed that Peter Steinberger guy for like 2-3 months. I started following him in like October, and I've been watching he just had a different way of doing it where he would just have like 10 agents at once, all with the same checkout, and they're just all blasting straight to master or main. Just like if you look at his GitHub activity, it's like
it's insane.
It's insane. And he's got like 50,000, 100,000 contributions. So I've been trying to like get up to that, and to some extent, he's like what he's doing a lot of is like very rote stuff. It's like I need a CLI that can do this sort of thing, and I need it's like there's not a lot of design thinking in much of what he's doing. There is in certain aspects, but like, part of what he did was like he just built a CLI for everything, right? A CLI for like 20 different messaging apps. And it's like, okay, that was somewhat rote. You just get an environment where you can test stuff and you start blasting away. But I think that was really inspirational just to see how fast he was moving. So I'm still trying to get up to that. I don't think I'll ever do it like that because I don't really want to work on those sorts of problems. But like I've been following him and trying to integrate more and more of his workflow into mine for like 4 months now, 5 months now, and I'm still learning. Like I'll go and revisit some of his articles and some of the stuff, and so I think that's really inspirational. And it's just like see what one guy can do if he really sends it. Like that's the thing that I think is really cool.
I mean, that was an area where I don't know if I was taking it as seriously until I heard you talking about it on Tales from the Crypt, and you were describing like the guy and his workflow, and I was like, you know what, I'll go and listen to the Lex interview that he did. And I was like, you know what, I like this guy. Like,
he's great.
Like, I mean, I have got an OpenClaw. I don't use it. I use just sort of Wingman instead because it already did most of the stuff I needed OpenClaw to do. But like, there's something about this whole industry and like how it's developing that makes me think we're gonna like speed run neuroscience or something like that in the next, where we actually start to figure out why we think in different ways, and we start to get better at expressing like the fact that we're not one homogeneous mind. We're like 10 different bits of mind that are all like fucking around at the same time. It's like, I
think another thing to learn from him that's interesting. I don't know why it's like totally different, but I thought of it as you were saying. Like he met the users where they were. It's like they're in WhatsApp, and he met them in WhatsApp. That's something you'd done in your previous project, right? Like, I think there's something there where he like really, really bent over backwards to meet the users where they were with this crazy ass vision of the future, right? Yeah. And so I'm not doing that, but maybe I should find a way to do that, right? Like maybe we should find more of a way to do that, to like take our crazy ass vision of the future, but like make it something that they can really, really easily interact with. So I think that was one of the big achievements he had, is that like he didn't ask people to change very much, right? And that's maybe that's the biggest reason for the success, right? It's like it showed up in the app they were already using the most, you know. So I think that's something to really think about too.
I mean, I don't know if you've been following Brad Mills at all and his issues. I find that quite interesting because he went really hard on his OpenClaw, and then he's been very honest about it on Twitter at the moment. And it's just like it's just fucked. Like nothing works. I spend all my time arguing with this thing, and that feels to me like like I can imagine like the interfacing with this thing via WhatsApp or whatever it feels like magic because you don't have to do very much. But then because you don't do very much, it quickly just becomes like an absolute mess, and you can't control the thing, and you haven't put in enough effort, even if it feels like you just can't do it through like a single stream.
That's why it's important to have like some fundamental notion. So like we've done some trainings where we teach people about these things, and like we always try to start with like vibe coding, like with something like Claude Code or something, open code or something, and then so you can see what's happening, and then explain to them like, okay, like as this is happening, it's a big chat transcript, and every time the whole thing's set over, and if you reset it, it forgets, like it's important to kind of, and you go long enough, and now you run out of space, and you have to compact, and it gets done. It's like it's really important to build up that like lattice of concepts. I did a podcast with Preston Pish where I tried to explain open code like with like assuming that you had no knowledge of any of this stuff. And I think it turned out really well, because it's like, if you don't, I think in some sense Brad is suffering from a lack of understanding of the fundamentals, right? Like it's just like he doesn't understand what a context window is, right? That it's like when you're using these tools, you get this transcript that gets longer and longer and longer, and the more that's in there and the more different stuff that's in there and the more tools and all the how-tos, I think he's just overwhelming his tool with, or his claw with like instructions. It's like,
you got like 1,000 tool calls in your systems.
Here's a million things to do, and then like now book me a reservation, and it's just like, oh god, I have to, I'm gonna book an air flight, like it just so like there's some of that stuff where it kind of helps to see under the curtain a little bit with like Coding Agent, not as an attempt to be productive, but as just because the Coding Agent, you see the Wizard of Oz a little bit, right? You see the whole flow of what's happening, and then if you have that mental model and you go with an OpenClaw, you kind of understand what's happening behind the curtains a little better, and when it fails, you might be able to have some intuition for why.
I feel like the more abstractions that I build for myself, particularly, like I never get rid of the need to want to see the lower level. Like it's like I can now. I've had this whole taskboard primitives. I've got like nice docs with diffs and all sorts going on, and I do most of my time there. But then I'm like, no, but also give me the link to the session where this got implemented so I can come in and see what you fucked up. It's like,
yeah, and also if it went well, sometimes it's good to just, because I've been doing similar stuff where I want more orchestration, right? Like it's like there's certain aspects of my work that end up being tedious when I'm copy and pasting the same thing over and over again. You know, the same type of thing back and forth. And I try to build tools. I mean, I built like 20 tools like this, and usually they only last for like 2 weeks, and then I build something better. But like, I always want, like when I use these things, I'm always like just going back and smoke testing the actual session and be like, well, you know, what was it screwing up in there, right? Like you want to actually see underneath what it's struggling with. And if all of that's hidden, it becomes difficult. Like, yeah, I don't know. There's a few ways to do it. I mean, like one obvious thing that I should probably do more of is like Factory, this Droid coding agent. It's like probably the best coding agent for in like evals, right? It's like really, really high quality.
I saw Tony talking about it on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, it is noticeably, but like I used it for a little while, and it's noticeably better, like the same models, it's noticeably better, especially with Opus. Like it's just noticeably better than Claude Code. And like it doesn't, you never, like you can run a session for like even like 2-3 months ago, you could run a session and just indefinitely. So like we did this hackathon for, I mean, this is another HRF thing. We did a hackathon where we brought like about 10 human rights activists and about 25 developers together, and we formed teams. And the idea is that the activists would bring a problem, right? Something that they're struggling with, or a few things. And then the developers would help them like create a solution for that problem. And then the activists would try to like take that and use their distribution, because many of them actually have good distribution, which Bitcoiners generally lack. And so like one great example was Leopoldo Lopez. You know, he's a activist from Venezuela, built like this really nice Nostr client that is like has a more authentic experience. It's a kind of like geo, I don't know what's the word for that, like geo, like if you're in Venezuela, you see onto other people from Venezuela, right? So you don't see Bitcoin stuff.
It's like geographically centric.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like he solved a real problem there. Like Nostr wasn't, the existing Nostr clients were not authentic experiences for his users, because they'd get dropped into a Bitcoin discussion. And so, you know, he brought that problem. The Soapbox team and Hazard and a few others helped him build a solution. And now he's got his community using it. And
nice.
And they have pretty, you know, I just saw a graph of like, you know, there's some way where a client can identify itself in the posts. And it, you know, there was like 5, Primal was number 1 and something was number 2. And like number 5 was Agora.
Agora.
Agora, right? It's like, it's already on the list, right? It's like, dang, that's cool. You know, so yeah. Damn, what I had a reason for mentioning that. What were we talking about just before this?
Oh, who knows?
Yeah. No, so Droid, right? So yeah, so Tony was there. Tony was there, and he used one session for the entire hackathon, right? So it's like usually when you're using like Claude Code, you're always having to create new sessions, because once you get to compaction, it starts to get stupid. And Droid is really smart about kind of compacting as you go, and it just never, the wheels don't come off, right? So Droid is really good, and they have this thing called Droid. You know, the problem is you pay API pricing, right? So it's not subsidized, so it's more expensive. So they have this thing called like Droid missions. So like, you know, I'm always like, man, instead of building my own little tools, maybe I should just use Droid missions and pay for it, you know? But I think of all the actual like developer hours I've wasted on my own little projects, I'd probably be a little more efficient if I did that, you know? But then at the same time, I don't know, I like to feel like, you know, it's like if you're chopping down trees, you know, you should spend like 5% of your time sharpening the axe, or 10%, right? You know, if you just never sharpen the axe, you don't, and if you never try different ways of swinging, you know, you're not gonna get better. So I kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I try to like just use a tool off the shelf and like embrace it. And then other times I try to make my own little workflows, and I don't know, I feel like I get better at it by trying things.
We've had this quite a bit with Wingman, where we'll talk about like, well, where's the right niche for this? Because I'm not going to build the better coding agent than OpenAI and Claude and OpenCode and things. And it's like they're all there. It's like, but I can take those and then I can put them over here into this other space. So even just like moving them into the web and moving them onto phones and stuff was like a big unlock for me. And then now it's like, okay, well, how do I like structure a business so like the whole business exists and it just happens to use these things and they can just plug in where they're needed. And
and that's where it really helps.
The goal.
It really helps to, I don't know, if you've just done a bunch of experiments, it is a lot easier to like design a solution in one given space than if you've been just eating out of the trough the entire time, right? You know, it is much easier. So I don't know. I think in some sense what we're doing is we're still just practicing and playing around, because these tools aren't quite in many cases actually economically useful yet compared to what they might be in a year, right? Like it's just going to get better and better, you know.
It's tricky, right? Because on the one hand, I'm like, I don't think I will ever hire a software engineer again.
Yeah.
Like, or if I do, it would be in more point areas for like audit
Yeah.
and research and stuff. But even there, it feels like some of that work is gonna come along and be or controllable by me, as opposed to like viable. And so that's huge. I just couldn't have an always on software development team for me personally previously. That was too much.
Well,
I needed to join a company to do that. But
there's just so much. I mean, one thing I really like is just how much less communication overhead there is.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you know, it's like, you know, the number of unique connections in like a 10-person team is like way higher than it is in a 5-person team. And when you get to 20, it's just like just a massive number of individual like 2-person connections. Like I forget the actual math for it, but like you know, like you're gonna have like if you go do a startup, it's like it's so much easier to communicate when you're 3 people. And then when you're 10, it's still quite easy. But when you're 20 or 30, it gets really hard. Like stuff all of a sudden and like politics start happening and it's just much harder. So if like, I don't know, if more things can happen at the like 3 or 4, you know, like it was like 3 people built the Wright brothers airplane, right? It was like the 2 Wright brothers. And
there
then
it
like
is in the background.
Yeah, like one 20-year-old, there's like one, they were all like high school dropouts and
bike mechanics or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, they're all bicycle mechanics because bicycles were the new fancy thing. And then the third guy, there's 2 brothers, and the third guy was like, he was the one who was like the
just lost to history. Like he's really like not come out of this well.
He got screwed. But he was a genius. He figured out how to get the engine light enough for it to fly. Right with him, and there's like 3 of them. 3 of them did the whole thing, right? So I don't know, like if we can get more to like little teams being able to do big things, I think that's going to be really exciting.
Just needs.
Like, it seems to me that like all 3 of us have really benefited from just like having time and space to like play and explore, and like that's probably been like the forcing function to just keep pushing the limit to figuring out like how far can we just go with this stuff with these tools. And I feel like the bit that maybe like I feel like we live in a bubble. Like when I am on like Nostr or even on Twitter, like as long as the algo is doing the right thing by me, I feel like everyone's figured it out. And then when I go out IRL, I'm talking to people and I'm like, oh wow, you guys just are completely unaware of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone would benefit from time and space, but they're not going to get it.
Yeah.
So like,
it was funny today. Yeah, today someone was talking to me. It was like I was like touring an apartment, and she's like, "Have you heard of ChatGPT?" And I'm like, yes, I have. Yeah. You know, it was funny that she was saying, like, "Chat, you heard ChatGPT?" I'm like, "Oh my god."
It seems like there's like the risk here is, or the opportunity is like there's an education piece that people need, but they also need that paired with like a bit of time to figure this stuff out. Yeah. And then like I feel like this is almost where that like K-shaped economy bit is. There's like a track that we're on. Yeah. And we're going to benefit from it longer term. And then there's like the track that everyone, and I feel like that discussion tends to be blended into like asset owners and people who don't own assets. But I feel like the real K is like capability. You know, it's like, it's a C-shaped economy. It's like,
that's horrible.
You have like the understanding of these tools and where it's going, and you're playing with them and you're experimenting. And then the other people who are just like are completely unaware that this is even going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like everybody has this idea. It's like, oh, the models got really good around Christmas, right? Like that's kind of was the meme in January. You know, like everyone's like, man, the models got good at Christmas, but no, like those models were there all of December. Like, and it was only when people were able to take like 3 or 4 days without any pressure from their job during the holidays that they could see it, right? And so I think I totally agree with your point that like you have to. And I mean, I've been very lucky. Like I probably made like 500 projects this year. I've made so many new projects, right? Like I've sort of, you know, as a software engineer for like 15 years, and I think I've probably gotten as much like seasoning in the last year as I had those 15 years previously, especially in terms of just lines of code and just seeing the life cycle. And I think, I mean, it is a worry for me, you know, like, like it's like, I feel like I'm superhuman, and then many other people are, you know, just using it to cheat or, you know, cheat on their homework or cheat on their, you know, their job. And it's, I think any way we can make these tools more appealing and get people to get this kind of little aha experience is going to be really important, because a lot of people are currently being left behind.
I mean, we'd been running like little training courses and stuff in Perth where we would get people into a room and we'd use vibe coding as a means to unlock it, but it would be, you start the session saying, has anybody ever developed an app before? And like no hand goes up.
Yeah.
And then within half an hour later, they've all got an app that they've built running on their phone.
Yep.
And you just like,
yep.
Fuck. Like that's quite an aha moment. But then I think you see them go away and they're like, oh yeah, but I can't do that. Like I don't need an app. It's like, no, but like that's an automation. This is like what it means is you can now start automating like literally anything that you need to do. But it's tricky to understand where it goes. I mean, I feel like I've similarly just spent like a good year in play, and I don't feel like any of it was wasted, and I've learned an enormous amount. But I haven't yet figured out which is the box that I tick that then turns that into $10 million. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like that. It's like that box is hidden currently.
Yeah, we're all looking for that box. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the like personal computer. It's like there's so many of these like Web 2.0 or like people who built the internet, right? Like the thing that they had is that their parents bought them a computer. A computer showed up when they were 12. Right. And there was somebody around that could show them it's not just like point and click. There's like a way to like talk to the computer directly. Right. And those are the Zuckerbergs and Musks and stuff of the world, as they saw that, they got that experience at a young age and were able to. And so I kind of think that, these AI things, they're like a new computer. Like the computer was kind of reinvented, and it's like fundamentally, the way you interact with it is like totally different. Right. Like, you went from terminals to like point and click applications. And then we had that for like 30 years, 40 years. And now we have a new thing, right? Like what was the first Macs were like in the early 80s, right? And so it's like 40 years of that model, and now we have a new model. And
we've gone back to the terminal. So that's
yeah, it's funny. I mean, that's like one of the funnier tweets I saw recently. It's like, man, we really spent like 2-3 years building all these crazy RAG systems, only to get beat by grep from 1971 or what, like it's like 1970s technology ended up beating all our RAG systems. Just you give a coding agent grep and it's like it works.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know where it goes either, and it's very uncertain. I mean, it does look like kind of a K-shaped thing where it's like a lot of people are going to have a tough time. And
I think the beauty of it is that at least there's a low barrier to entry. Like again, like the only thing you really need is agency and desire. Like your ability to learn stuff has just got a lot better. Like your ability to do stuff has just got a lot easier. Yeah. So the only thing that really holds you back is wanting to do any of this stuff and then giving yourself time. So hopefully in a bad situation, people get drive and time. That's the thing you end up with.
I feel like the way our societies work, like the Western kind of societies work, is like they sort of funnel you from an early age in one of two directions. It's like you're either like 95% of the population or more is taught to not want to do things, just sort of like, go with the crowd, watch the, did you catch the game on Sunday or type of thing, right? Did you watch the new Bachelorette, whatever. And to live a life of not really having any agency, right? And just be like a controllable herd, basically. And then, of course, you need like a few percent in the other direction to be entrepreneurs and scientists and stuff to make that work, right? And, a lot of people, I think that's kind of how society works and has worked, right? Like it's like very different in terms of like how you spend your 20s. You do very, very different things if you want to go in the two directions, right? Like, if you want to become an entrepreneur, like all the things that will make you succeed with the HR department at like IBM are not good. You should not do any of that, right? So, that's where it's a little scary, because it's like kind of 95% of the population has been conditioned to not do the things that will make them thrive in this new world. So it's going to be scary. And it's a big question for like, I don't know, like homeschoolers will be vindicated, I think, like like that sort of thing. Like education's just, I was talking to a guy who's a professor a week ago, and it's like, he's like, this education system's going to have to change a lot, right? We're just not prepared for this at all,
Yeah, and it just doesn't. Right? It's still pen and paper. It's all just like it's going to be so far behind. Like it's one of those areas where I think with the kids that I'll just take care of getting you ready for what's actually going to happen, and then get what you can out of school, and then but don't worry about it. Like, it's not going to be the definition of you.
It's not going to get you very far, sadly. Go to software engineering. We need 42-person cohorts, maybe, you know.
So what about so one of my predictions for this year then, we kind of touched on this earlier about the models, was that I think models get better, but I don't think it matters so much. Like I feel like I'm getting somewhat vindicated at the moment, which is that most of the breakthroughs that we see, I think, are tooling breakthroughs, and I think this was always going to be the way. Which is that what we do is we spend more cycles with the model. We ask more focused questions. We have better tools. We have better memory systems. And like that is going to drive what appears to be like this huge leap forward in models, but really it's just better tooling in how you present the AI to someone.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the other legacies of like OpenClaw. It's like, you know, probably could have done this at least 3 months earlier, maybe 6 months earlier, right? Like probably not a year. Like a year ago they couldn't do much. You know, enough computer use to be useful, but like, you know, there was a long period of time where someone could have built OpenClaw and it could have become popular. No one did, and I don't think the models were the constraint; it was the tooling. And so that was like one of the things he did. Is like, you know, like Andre Karpathy just did a chat. I think it was like Sarah Gua was
so the no prize one.
Yeah, and you know that's what kind of he was saying. He's like, you know, I don't feel like the model is the bottleneck so much right now. It's like he's like, I just don't know how to use them. Is you know, I can tell there's more intelligence there than I know how to capture, right? And you know, and I kind of feel similarly. So I agree, and I also think that that you know we're starting to get priced out. Like a lot of normal people are going to get priced out of the frontier intelligence, right? Like, you know, if you're using Claude Code fast and heavily parallelizing your workflow, you're going to be spending like $10,000 a month minimum, right? And like. You know, professional software engineers at the like forefront are spending like $10,000 or more dollars a month, right? And you know, like I feel like I'm like I wish I could have more money for tokens, right? Like I wish I could be more, you know, like I could probably double my productivity if I 10x my token rate, right? You know,
I feel like I heard you state something along these lines about a year ago, and it was at the time it was a bit apocryphal. It's like, it's not going to get cheaper; it's going to get more expensive.
Yeah.
I think you've been borne out on that one.
Software development is becoming capital intensive, and so like that's one way where it's like, maybe the models will get smarter. You can't afford it though, you know. Like it's gonna be it's already happening. Like I've been turning on the fast modes here recently, and it's just like it's more money, right? Like so that's one aspect of it, and of course it does trickle down, right? It's like, you know, in 2 years you'll be able to run, you know, these things locally that are just as smart as what the frontier stuff is. So it's like they will get smart, and you will, you know, it will trickle down. But yeah, like, and you know, even on the like if you're for lots of domains, I'm pretty sure they don't, you know, if you're asking like very advanced chemistry questions, it's like you're gonna need to get a license for that. You know, like you're gonna, you know, they're not gonna let any random account asks, you know, everybody like very, very obscure biochemistry questions, right? Because it's like there's dangerous shit you can do with that, right? So, you know, the censorship will hit as well, where it's like, the model might be able to do it, but you don't have the credential to use that aspect of the model, right? I kind of agree, or that's a different take on it, that like maybe if they do get smarter, like you might not be able to access it, right?
I mean, surely I can access it. I've got a podcast. Like we've got
you got $10 million on the way.
Well, like if I can find that button.
Got $10 million with your name on it.
Claude, make me $10 million.
Codex. Where's the button that turns all this into $10 million? You got the goose running along.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the button? Where's the goddamn button?
Oh, so it's interesting.
It's going to be a tough transition coming. I think that's a definite takeaway here. It's like I don't look forward to like the point after the whole like AI takeover of this is now just democratized and everyone's got it. I think is great, and I think people can get a lot of stuff done. But how you move from a world built on just debt and bullshit jobs to one where everybody has to have agency and do productive things, that's not that feels like it's going to make the Industrial Revolution look sort of tame. And that was a pretty big wake-up call. So,
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, in some way, it's like, we were praying for a world where the bullshit jobs would go away and, we'd be forced to drink our medicine, and, we might be getting that with this, on a societal level, and just, hopefully hopefully we can manage it, right? Like, it is kind of it's going to be the medicine we need in some ways, right? Like, it would be really cool. Like, there's so much amazing manufacturing that's happening within a couple hundred miles of where I live in Austin, right? Like, all these like chip fabs are being announced. It's like everything I used to dream of, where it's like, man, it'd be cool if we could have manufacturing again and like have a real economy. And it's like, damn, it's happening, right? Like, a couple of years ago, everything in Austin was like these silly email jobs coming in, like Facebook and Oracle and all these things. And it's like, now we have semiconductor fabs. Now we have TSMC, and like, it's like aspects of that are like super, super exciting, like everyone's rotating. All the smart people in Silicon Valley are all rotating out of software into hardware, right? So it's like, I don't know, there's like, yeah, there's many positive aspects of it as well. And yeah, so, sometimes you need some hard times, right? Like, if there's anything that's wrong with the West right now, is it's been a little too easy for it, a little too long, right? So, maybe a little struggle. My grandparents were some tough sons of bitches, and that's what because they went through the Great Depression, right? Like, so I don't know, like, hopefully but sometimes you need some struggle to
so
revitalize things.
Maybe on a positive note, to bring it to a close, then, like, what's the most positive thing you've had out of your playing with AI for the last year?
That's a good question.
I know for me, it's a lot of fun. Like, it's really like reinvigorated this idea of working with computers and software and building stuff.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the biggest one is like a year ago when I joined with HRF. Like, I kind of got burnt out on programming, and I hated it, right? And now I love it more than ever, right? Like, so it's like it's kind of ironic, actually. In some sense, my old profession has been automated over the last year. Like, the thing I used to do, like coder, like, that was the thing I could always go. Someone could always pay me a decent hourly rate to write Python, right? And I could knock it out of the park. That's gone now. So it's like, in some sense, that's bad, right? Like, my calling card forever is now gone. But in the other sense, I hated it and never wanted to do it again. And now I love it more than ever. So, like, I guess that's for me. It's like the thing I used to do is simultaneously gone, and it's back at the same time, back more than ever, right? So I guess that's the positive thing. And then the other thing is, like, I don't know, it's just been, I feel like I've learned more in the last year than I ever have, like, I know how browsers work. I know how I know how operating systems.
I honestly thought you said I know how bras work then.
Bras work, yeah. ChatGPT, Claude, make no mistakes. Help me.
I think we've just got a title. Justin Moon discovers how bras work with AI.
Yeah.
Oh dear,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
On that note,
but on that,
this is the good stuff.
all right.